I should try that. PLTs, also known as Professional Learning Targets, are taken on by every single school in Sun West School Division. There are 3 strands: reading, writing, and math. And at Kenaston School, we decided to take on each individually. Now, next year, we're going to focus on only one, and it's going to be writing. Now, I'm a math teacher. I don't know much about writing, but we're going to make it happen here. Unless you're already successful. Now, any kid in Kenaston School can tell you about all the strands that we deal with and focus on. Now, specifically, the reading strand. We're going to go talk to some kids. Her name is Maggie, by the way. We're going to go talk to her about reading, and she'll be able to tell you everything that we do with regards to reading at Kenaston School and how we're trying to improve the reading strand. Oh, there she is right here. Hey Maggie, how's it going?
What? My name's not Maggie.
Well, whatever. I'm sure that you have a name, and I'm sure it's lovely. And Christine here can tell you whatever it is she's going to tell you about reading.
My name is not Christine. My name is Lucy.
Okay. Thanks, Lucy.
So you need to include a beginning and a middle and an end, and you need to include a problem, the characters, and the settings where the story takes place, and the solution to the problem, and 4 details. And yeah.
It's pretty easy. Cool. High five.
I'm going to talk about making connections in reading, and making connections will help you understand the story and feel what the person is feeling. So the text-to-text is you can read something, you can say, hey, I remember when I read this book and this happened. So you can remember something from a book. Text-to-self is something that you can actually feel what they're feeling. Like if it's something like somebody's been bucked off a horse in a story, you can say, hey, I remember when I've been bucked off my horse. Like, I know exactly how that person feels. And then text to the world is if there's a story about an earthquake somewhere, you can say like the earthquake in Haiti. I remember when that happened. Like, I remember it was all over the news. And so it really helps you feel what people are feeling in the story, and you can understand it better. So that's making connections.
Hi, I'm Kim Johnson, and I teach at Kenaston School. And I'm here to talk about our reading PLT that we've been working on for the last 3 years. It all started back in the spring of 2008 when our staff went to a reading conference in Regina. And we decided after that that we would really like to focus on teaching kids effective reading strategies. So in the following fall, we developed a continuum of a scope and sequence for teaching reading strategies to our students. And that has been the basis of our PLT for the last 3 years. And what we've noticed over those 3 years is that our students are better able to explain the metacognition that goes into their reading. And most recently, we've gone back and said, what are our areas of weakness still yet? And so our focus this year has been to focus on those areas of weakness and to pull them up to the other areas in reading strategies. So that's kind of a summary of what we've been doing at Kenaston School with our reading PLT.
High five.
I don't know.
At Kenaston School, we're all mathletes. And on top of mathletes, we like to improve in our math skills. Because we're all not perfect. So, we're going to talk to the next person who's going to tell us all we're doing with regards to improving in our math. And I think on top of a mathlete, she's also an athlete. Brittany, can I talk to you?
Glasses.
This is Brittany. She'll tell you everything you need to know about our math PLT.
Okay, so what do you... So here in Kenaston, our math teachers decided to do our math rewrites a little differently, and I personally like it. What happens is we go through each section in math, and then at the end we write our test, and we get our mark on that. And then we can choose to rewrite the test, but instead of rewriting the whole test, we can choose sections of the test that we did poor on, and then improve on it that way. And I think it's better because there may be parts of the math section that I know really well, and I did good on the test on, but then there's parts where I just don't understand whatsoever. And it's good because it gives me more practice for that stuff for the final, and I also get to improve on that part. And then sometimes I might have forgotten some of the stuff that I was good at, and then my mark just sometimes could get even worse because of that. And yeah. Is that good?
Awesome.
I hope so.
Our math PLT in Kenaston School, we broke down into kind of a middle years section and a high school section. So in the 10 to 12 section, we focused on trying to raise our students' marks by 10% on each chapter exam. Here is some of the data that we have for Math C30. So in chapter 1, and this is a class average, so it's not perfect data, but the class average was 77. When we did the chapter 1 retest, you can see that the actual marks did go up exactly 10% to 87. Chapter 2, the class average was 64. After our retests, we went up to 79. For the most part, across the board, we're pretty consistent. We're almost at 10% for each exam. There are a couple anomalies, and we'll need to work on those for next year. That is the math PLT for Kenaston School.
Restart. That's fine. Okay, so some of the other students in our school have talked about the way the teachers have been approaching their classes, focusing on reading, writing, and math. And specifically in your ELA class, my target has been writing. So without any kind of prompting, you say you're going to wing it. So what's your feedback on how this has affected your learning of the writing process, or how writing has changed for you since starting this class?
I used transitions before, but I notice them now. Like I can recognize them.
And I put more in so that my work flows together.
Before it would be a lot more thinking, but knowing like the setup for it helps. And now after doing so much of it, it just helps us to continue writing, and it works we get a better flow.
So one of the activities that I've done is, instead of just focusing on like a whole paragraph, I've started and given you different assignments for just say, like the middle part for references. So you repeat those more difficult tasks, and then when you have to do it in the bigger paragraphs, how does that change things for you?
Makes it
More
easier.
natural.
Like if you practice at doing it, then when it comes time to write like an official essay that's worth a lot of marks, you just say, okay, reference, write the paragraph.
And you know what you're missing. You can look back and say, oh, I remember doing this. This is what I have to do now.
Or like the examples of stuff you have, if you're stuck on like how you should do something, then it really helps to have the example.
Okay. And what about the blogging? Do you think at all when you're writing, like when you work on the blog, are you just kind of journaling, or are you consciously thinking of what should be included and what should I not include as I'm writing this particular blog post?
I always think about the person that's going to be reading this and
Yes.
what they would be reading. So like if I wrote something that only the class would understand it, I always, when I'm blogging, I write so that everyone who reads it would understand
I explain
what
it
it's
more.
all about.
And but sometimes I put in stuff that we wouldn't have to write, and stuff that it seems pointless to add in, but you kind of have to
For other people to actually
get it.
Okay, so then if I asked you to pick one thing writing related that was the most important learning step this year, can you each go around and pick one thing? Okay, so we'll start with Victoria.
The structure of how to write the paragraphs, because before it would be a lot of thinking of what do I do, how many sentences, what order does it go in, and now it's more easy just to write when I know, okay, this has to come first, then that's next, and then that.
Okay, Lynn?
Mine is also like the sentence structure, because now, like before I didn't like writing essays, and now it's just because I know like this is the set amount of sentences, it's just easy just to write now.
Okay.
For the 7-sentence structure thing, when you have to find a reference, it's nice like that you told us that it doesn't have to be like a big long entire sentence, but if even sometimes just a word does it, so it makes it easier to find references.
Mine isn't more so writing, it's more so answering the writing. Like the biggest thing that changes, like when you taught us how to support it with a reference, it's easier for me to explain my work now that I have a reference to support it.
Okay.
Yeah, I have the same 7-sentence thing with the references in, because now I find my references, I put them in really easy, and with each sentence I know what's supposed to be in it, so I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
And mine's a 7-sentence thing too, because before, like we just like say, like the teacher just say it should be an intro, there should be a conclusion, then there should be body points in it. So then I'd find that I'd write an intro, then just kind of keep going, then add conclusion. But now it's kind of just like everything has a place, and it's all the same setup each time.
For every paragraph. Okay, so if it's all about the 7-sentence, let's hear it. 1. Sentence 1.
Topic.
Sentence 2. Sentence 2. 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. Now high five each other.
I did not.
So, Leighton, what are some of the other steps of editing that you were taught for writing that you use in your other classes?
Well, for essays, you're not allowed to have contractions in formal essays, so I do that usually. And then you can't use I unless it's an opinion-based thing. What else is there? I forget now. What else is there?
What about that sentence you just showed me?
Oh, you always have transition sentences after your paragraph
transition sentences.
There's one. Although there are many arguments against the atomic bomb being used, there's also many for it.
Awesome. Anything else?
Well, not in this essay, but in some essays you do like a 7-sentence structure, and I forget them, but
yeah,
they're like that.
Were they helpful?
Yeah, they were helpful.
Yep.
Very helpful.
So, do you feel like you're a bit of a stronger writer?
Yeah, I don't know. I've noticed writing just once you get going, it gets kind of easy.
Really?
So then you just keep writing, I guess.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.